Now today we're going to talk about a difficult topic. It's not easy for sure. And that is when we get these feelings that let us know that it's time to leave a relationship. Now we've just had St. Valentine's Day, and you guys have to know that I believe in love. I'm a sucker when it comes to romance. I love hearing about people finding that special someone. I love hearing about relationships that have lasted for years and years and the couple are happy. And when I hear about a couple breaking up, I almost take it personally because it hurts. I don't like it at all. So when I talk about this is a video about knowing when to leave a relationship, I'm not talking about giving up, but I'm talking about recognizing when staying is no longer healthy for you. And these feelings that I'm talking about, these feelings that let you know that it's time to leave, they're not feelings that we choose. They're feelings that we have absolutely no control over. Now, if you feel one of them, one or two of them, then I believe that yes, maybe you can work it out. You can talk to your partner. You can seek therapy. You can do all different kind of things if you want to stay in that relationship. But if you're feeling 3 or 4 or several of them, then yikes. Maybe it is time for you to seriously consider walking away, closing the door, and turning the page on your relationship. So if you're interested in this topic, and if you want to know more about these feelings, then you know what to do. And that is, don't go anywhere. Now this first one, if you've never been through it, if you've never felt it, it's a hard one to imagine because you're with someone. They're there, they're physically there, they're tangible, you can touch them, you can hear them, you can be with them, you can see them, and yet you feel alone. And the solitude is very, very real. When you talk with your partner, you feel like your conversations lack depth. You feel like he doesn't understand you, he's not seeing you, he's not hearing you. And that makes you feel isolated and alone. You don't feel valued, you don't feel cared for, you don't feel like you have any common interests anymore, and so you feel so alone in the relationship. Now, feeling that solitude can be distressing and confusing too, but I believe that recognizing these feelings is a first step towards moving forward. If after you've done everything that you can, if you've spoken to your partner, if you've thought about going to couples therapy, if you've done everything, then maybe it's time that you actually are alone and you walk away and you leave the relationship behind you. Lately, your partner is always in a good mood. He's looking good. He smells amazing. He takes more care in his appearance. He's coming home at kind of odd hours. You see him being very protective over his phone. And whereas a lot of women would be freaking out because they're thinking, oh my goodness, this man is cheating on me. You, on the other hand, are thinking, good. She can have him. She can have him. You are relieved. You are relieved because the more time he spends with her, the less time he spends bothering you. Now, it's needless to say, these are feelings that you don't feel when you're in love, right? You feel emotionally disconnected from him. That emotional bond has been broken. And it could be that you've also lost respect for him. So who cares if he's seen somebody else? You are so exhausted from this relationship that yes, you're ready to move on. Or maybe you just have other priorities now and wasting time behind someone who doesn't even know how to be faithful, quite frankly, is the least of your worries. And if this relationship no longer serves your emotional needs, then sadly, it is time for you to call it quits and walk away. You know, once upon a time when things weren't working out, you used to sit down with your partner and you would talk for hours, trying to let him know how you feel, what you want, where you want the relationship to go. Or you would talk over and over again. Now, however, you're all talked out. You're done. You've got nothing more to say. You've spoken until you have no more words. The words have vanished. You're tired. You're exhausted. How many more times can you tell someone what you want? When you get to this point, when you feel like you just cannot go on any longer, you are so tired. Well, that's something to reflect on, right? Because the basics of any relationship is communication. And if you're all talked out, if you feel like you've explained yourself enough, if you feel like you're all communicated out, then maybe it's time to walk away. Now, this is one that is personal for me because it's something that I've felt in relationships and I've had to deal with it. And that is when every sound, every breath, every movement, everything that comes from that person annoys you. Ooh. Just hearing them chew irritates you. Hearing them go to the bathroom annoys you. Hearing them sleep and their heavy breathing gets on your nerves. When it gets to that point, I don't know. Can it be saved? I don't know. I honestly don't know. Me personally, when I got to that point, I knew that there was no going back. And I was sure without a shadow of a doubt that it was time to call it quits, turn the page, and to kiss this relationship goodbye. You know, when you love someone, and people in love fight, there's arguments, right? But you always try to stay on the other side of that line, to not cross that line, to not offend, to not get to a point where you can't go back. When you realize, or when you find yourself getting to a point in the arguments when you know you're being totally and utterly disrespectful and you don't care, ooh, that's not a good one. You know that you've upset him, but the last thing on your mind is fighting fair. Oh, it's not pretty, and it could signal a big issue because it shows that there is something seriously wrong in the relationship. Now, this often happens when conflicts become more about winning rather than resolving, and more about wanting to be right than peace. And we all know that words can cut deep, right? Oh, they can hurt, sometimes even more than a blow. And this desire to lash out, to hurt, often comes from feelings of frustration and unresolved issues, which of course leads to poor communication. If you want to tackle this, if you're interested in changing things a little bit, then start reflecting on your behavior. Be honest with yourself. Is being hostile helping the situation, or is it making it worse? When you find yourself zoning out during conversations with your partner, he's talking to you and he's probably happy, telling you about his day or something that happened to him, and all you can think about is, when will this man shut up? You have no interest whatsoever in anything that he has to talk to you about. You just don't care. You hate the way he tells you things. You hate his voice when he's telling you things. You hate the things that he tells you because they're boring and you have no interest. And it's something that you can't control. It's not your fault that you feel this way. You just find him boring. Your interests have completely gone their separate ways. Now, if you're interested in saving the relationship, you could try to figure out, why is it that you feel this way? Is it just a phase? Or is it pointing to a deeper issue in your relationship? You could try different arguments. You could try different activities, doing things together that maybe you are interested in, just so that you could have a point of contact again. I think it can be resolved, but you're going to have to put in the effort and the work. And if you feel that your relationship is worth that effort, then good on you. And maybe you just think, you've tried it all before, you've done everything before, and now you're just tired, you're bored, you're not interested. And that's okay too, if that's how you feel. So, whatever road you wish to take, I wish you well. Now, in every single relationship, there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days. There are going to be ups and there are going to be downs. But when you realize, or you're finding out, that you're having more bad days than good, or if the good days have disappeared altogether, then that could mean that you are staying together out of habit and out of what used to be rather than what actually is. Now, this often happens when routine takes over, and that excitement, that excitement of being together, of staying together, of spending hours just talking together, when that excitement fades and routine takes over, this is what usually happens. A healthy relationship should feel like a choice, not an obligation. So your partner's not well. He has a fever, he's coughing, he's in bed, he needs a little bit of help. And you do all that you possibly can to help him. I mean, of course you do, because you're not a monster, right? So you do all that you can to help him. But deep down, it's and you're doing it really grudgingly because you could not care less. This is a bad one. I know it is. And I know that it's happened. And I know that for those who have lived through this, it's not easy to talk about because no one wants to admit something like that. It makes you sound heartless, right? But the truth is that it happens. If those feelings aren't there, and if that person hasn't been treating you right, or you feel that he hasn't, that's a consequence of that. And although it might sound bad and uncaring, I genuinely believe that if you get to feel this way, it's not for no reason. I honestly believe that. So there you are, acting out of duty rather than love and affection. And this, without a shadow of a doubt, can cause resentment and frustration and all sorts of things. So if you feel like that, and this one, I think that it's a pretty serious one. If you feel that way, if you feel that you really don't care about that person, even when you see them at their most vulnerable, then I would suggest, and I think that even you must know, that maybe this is the time to walk away for both of your sakes. Now it's your partner's birthday, or it's Christmas, or it's Valentine's, or whatever it is. It's a day that you give your partner a gift, When you get to the point where you say, I ain't buying that person jack because they've had enough from me. They've eaten enough from me. They've got enough from me. Every day for them is their birthday. When you reach a point where just the thought of buying a gift just feels so totally unnecessary because you feel like you have given enough, it might be a sign that your relationship is imbalanced. And no one wants to feel like that. And you don't want to feel like you've been taken advantage of, just giving and giving and giving and never receiving. And when you feel like that, maybe you can change the dynamics. But if the dynamics do not change, and you feel that it's something that's going to go on forever and you are always going to be the one to bear the brunt of everything, and if it's something that no longer sits well with you, you are no longer interested in doing so, then fair enough. If you feel like walking away, go for it. Have you ever been in the situation where just the thought of your partner touching you and having to lie down and be intimate with that person makes you feel not comfortable, uneasy, almost physically sick? Then you know it's a feeling that is completely out of your control. This means that there are so many things going on. There's a disconnect between the two of you. There are unresolved issues. There are frustrations, maybe anger. Maybe there's a disrespect. There are so many things that could be going on. And it's up to you to reflect and to find out, if you're interested, why is it that you feel this way? Is it something that you can recuperate? Is it something that you can come back from? I personally believe that if the emotional gap has become so wide, it might be time to consider whether staying in this relationship is in your best interest or not. So there you have it. But remember though that leaving a relationship isn't about failure. It's about choosing yourself and your happiness. What is good for you? Just because someone loves you, it doesn't mean that you have to love them back. Is it fair? I don't know, but it's human. If you've liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Remember, it costs you nothing. Thank you so much for stopping by. It was great seeing you. It always is. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. But until then, be kind to yourself and to others. Take care. Bye for now. Ciao.